Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Effective Resume Thursdays. Very glad you're with us today. It is March 3rd, 2022. Please note this event is being recorded. It's currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window do not appear in the recording. If you'd like to put your information in there so you can network with other people who are on the call today, please feel free to do so. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter the Zoom chat window. For those watching on Facebook right now, thank you for joining us. Please just enter your questions into the comment field. We are monitoring both the chat and the comment field, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. We are going to review one or two resumes today live online. If you'd like to submit your resume using the chat box, if you're watching on Zoom, you may do so by following that little blue arrow by clicking on File, and then you can attach your resume. But please note, if you would like to, please delete your header information before you do so, because your information will be on Facebook and on YouTube from here till electrons stop electronicking or whatever they do. So just please note that if you do want to submit it, please remove your header information. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I started a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Through Job Search that you may not know. It is available on Amazon. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s, and I'll tell you about our upcoming program that we have tomorrow at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, also known as the PIC group. A resume and a LinkedIn profile is not going to get you a job. It only gets you a phone call. How well your interviewing skills are perfected is what's going to get you the job. So if you'd like to have more information on that, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be glad to get you some information. All right, let me switch presentations here. I'm your presenter today. So what we're going to do is the first part of this presentation, we're going to take a look at the ATS system, applicant tracking systems. We'll talk about the one-page bio. We're going to talk about a master resume. We'll then go over the key components of a resume, what you should have on your resume. And then the second part is if anybody has sent a sample resume, and we'll be glad to review your resume at the end of the presentation. So just a little humor to get things kicked off. You do want your resume to be remembered. How are you going to do that? What's going to make your resume stand out? So let's talk about the ATS system. The first thing about an ATS system is you have to remember parsing. What is parsing? Parsing is where you have submitted your resume and it goes and pulls information and sticks it in the different forms in the different fields of the form on an ATS system. You've got to remember there's well over 100 different ATS systems, and every ATS system is going to look at your resume a little bit differently when you submit it. So you've got to be very, very careful, and you've got to make sure that once you've allowed everything to be uploaded, that you look over all those fields to make sure the right information is in the right field. You want to make sure that you do not use any special characters or any special formatting. No headers, no footers. Like in Microsoft Word, you can have a header or footer. No tables. You just want everything to be plain and simple for the ATS system to be able to pick it up. You've got to ensure that your keywords align to the job description. You can never submit a generic resume, but what you always want to do is customize your resume to talk about whatever's in the job description. If it's not in the job description, don't tell them about it. They don't care. They only want people who can submit 70 to 80% of what's in a job application, of what's in the job description that they're asking for. A good way to check the job description versus your resume is a program called jobscan.co. Now, the nice thing about jobscan.co is you can get 5 or 6 of them per month for free. I've been told that if you go and clear your cache, it'll start over again. You can get 5 or 6 more. So if you're doing 5 or 6 a week, that would be beneficial. Be very careful when you use jobscan.co. When you take the job description from the company, make sure you don't include the job description. Don't include any benefits or other side notes, because you just want to make sure that the meat and potatoes of the job description is what you're comparing to your resume. If it asks for your resume to be attached, do so. I've heard that most recruiters never look at what the parsing system does. That all they do is when you pop up as somebody that they should look at, they just pop open your resume to see what it looks like. So make sure it's clean and neat and easy for them to read. If it asks for a cover letter, we recommend you go ahead and write a cover letter. Some recruiters read them, some recruiters don't read them. Probably what will happen is if your resume gets passed on to a hiring manager usually reads cover letters and your resume in more detail. So here's just a little bit of advice from an expert. This is from Charlie Zinger, who's a vice president at Career Management Partners. He says, keep these 3 perspectives in mind. Number 1, technology. Your resume needs to be ATS compatible. We just talked about what that takes. You've got to make sure your resume matches the job description. Very, very important, because if you're just submitting a generic resume, you're not taking the time to really tell somebody why we should call you. Why should somebody call you? The second point is attention to detail, word usage, verb tense, no errors. Think about it. A recruiter or somebody is looking at a pile of resumes. They've gotten 300 resumes in for this job that's been posted. They go through the first one, and all they do is they just start looking for a reason to exclude you. Then when they finally find, 10 or 15 or 20 that seem to pass everything, then they'll look a little bit deeper and dive, and then maybe call the top 5 or 10 people. Style points. Be sure to explain different roles within a company. We're going to show you how to do that in our resume to point that out. So you just, you want to show that you've had some advancement at a company and how that works. So you've got to make sure you keep the big picture in mind. Number 1, uploading a resume that has no special formatting, very, very important. You want to be sure to review the information that has been uploaded, because you never know, the parsing system may mess things up. I've heard of a gentleman who, his name was John Smith, PMP, and it said his first name was John, his middle name was Smith, and his last name was PMP. So you've got to be very careful that it gets all the right information into the correct fields. Here's something that's very, very important. Reach out to somebody in the company and let them know that you're interested in the job. I've heard that a lot of recruiters would love to get a phone call from you saying, I saw your job description, I have applied online, I meet the job qualifications that you're looking for. That usually will get you a phone call. That usually will get them to call you back, because you've made it easy for them. You've gone, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. So if you can, go to a company website, go to LinkedIn, see if you can find their contact information. If not, just call the front desk of the company and go, I'm trying to find Jane Smith, or, she's a recruiter in the department. Can I get to her voicemail, please? And leave her a voicemail. The best thing you can do, if you can, is find a LinkedIn connection request at a company. Find somebody, a LinkedIn connector, somebody who can hand off your resume to somebody. That would be great. The second thing you can do is if you can get hold of the recruiter who posted the job, that's the second best way. And of course, if not, the other thing you can do is reach out to the talent acquisition or recruiting leader in a department, because they will usually pass that information along. So most of those people will be on LinkedIn. You should be able to somehow make a connection. here's a story back several years ago, I saw a job in the Dallas Morning News, in a newspaper. And so I applied online. I did what I was told to do. And then I looked on LinkedIn to see, could I find somebody who could maybe network my way into the company? I happened to find a connection who was part of the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group, who I was first degree connected to, who had a first degree connection at this company. He was in sales. This guy was in sales. I reached out to my first degree connection. He said, Jeff, I'll be glad to reach out to my first degree connection. And so he reached out to that guy that afternoon. That afternoon, I get an email from that guy going, please send me your resume. I will hand deliver it in the morning when I go into the office. That next morning, I get an email from him like at 9 o'clock. Just dropped your resume off with the hiring manager. At 9:30, I got a phone call from the hiring manager. We had a half-hour discussion, and I was in. Okay, I had an opportunity to talk about what the job was. So, the power of LinkedIn is very, very powerful. All right, so now we want to talk a little bit about the difference between a resume and a one-page bio. So a resume signals you're looking for a job. If you're networking with somebody, if you're not sure, if you're just trying to pass information on to friends and family and professional acquaintances, usually a bio is a much better tool because a bio can be used in a lot of situations and a lot less risky. Okay, your resume focuses on the work history detail and your credentials, where a bio focuses on major accomplishments and expertise. A resume is primarily a job search tool, where a bio, you can use it for many, many things. When I give talks, this past week, I was down in Houston giving a talk on LinkedIn. They had a copy of my bio. They could use that to introduce me with. If I'm going to network with somebody, I'm always going to send them a bio. If I'm trying to reach out to somebody who maybe doesn't know what I do, I'm going to use a bio. My personal opinion is you never send a resume out until you have a detailed job description so you know what they need. And if you can wait and have a phone call with somebody to really find out what they need, that's even better, because then you can really send a hard-hitting, customized, right to the point resume that tells them, here's what you're looking for, here's what I can do. So here's a sample of a bio. This is a generic sample. I will put the samples here shortly into the chat window so you can download the sample, or you can ask for them and I'll get them to you. You can email me and I'll send it to you at the very end of this presentation. But this is one sample. So you see the person's, you put a picture on a bio. Okay, you say maybe a couple bullets about what it is you do. You give a little bit of a background, professional biography, list your education. You can go through and list, and then you want to make sure your contact information is there. And then you list some professional achievements and successes. Okay, so this doesn't scream, I'm looking for a job. This just says, this is who I'm looking at. This is, here's who I am. Here's the second bio. Okay, so this one's horizontal instead of vertical. The difference on this one, for the most part, is he's broken out his competencies a little bit differently, and he's got target functions and target companies on the side. So, a one-page bio, a professional biography, whatever it is you want to call it, there's a lot of different things. But you got to be careful with target companies, because if you list target companies, if you're sending it to one particular person in particular, you better make sure that their company is listed as #1. They also could be offended if they say, well, you're also looking at these other companies too. So, just depending how you're using it, you may or may not want to include target companies or target functions. All right, let me go through and I will load those two profiles here in the chat window. Give me just a second here. So let's see here. Here's bio #1. Here's bio, here comes bio #2. All right, so I just put in both bios in there. Like I said, if you can't download them for some reason, I'll give you an email address at the very end of this that you can go and send me your profile, or like you can let me know what you're looking for and I'll get these to you. All right, so let's talk about a master resume. A master resume is a very effective tool because you don't have to think about what you've done when you see a job description. What you do is you take a master resume, it can be 10, 15, 20 pages long. It's everything you've done since high school. And if you did an internship in high school, include that too. So what you've done is you've now got this big document, everything you've done. You have 8 or 10 or 15 bullet points underneath each job. You list addresses, managers' names, what every company did, street addresses, details of start date, start date, end dates. You list everything. And then when you see a job description, you go and you eliminate everything that's not in the job description. So you save your master resume and whatever naming conventions you use to save documents, and you eliminate everything. Everybody here has done a lot of really great things over their career, but if they don't ask for it in a job description, don't tell them about it because you're trying to get that perfect match. When you add all these other words, then you only have a couple things that may match, okay? You want to make it easy for them. You got to remember, sometimes the recruiter is a 21-year-old just out of college, first job out of college, and the boss says, hey, go find me 5 people who can fill this job description. And he or she doesn't know what they're doing. They don't know what the job is. They don't know what all these words mean. So you've got to make sure that you match your resume as close as possible. So take that master resume. And then the nice thing is you don't have to think about what you've done because you've got one big master document. Okay, some characteristics of a good resume. So the goal of a good resume is to make it easy for the ATS system and screeners to determine that you're a good match for the job. We just talked about that. You want to be that match. You're trying to be that perfect candidate for them so they'll call you up. So number one, formatting. Okay, we're going to talk about what a good format should be. Number two, we're going to talk about the overall length. The overall length of a resume should be 2 to 3 pages. If you're just out of college, you could probably get everything on 1 page, but 2 to 3 pages is what works really well. If you're working for a government, if you're applying to a government job or an education job, they probably want to see your master resume. You can take off supervisors' names and the exact dates and street addresses, but they're going to want to see all the detail of what you've done. When it comes to formatting, you want clean, easy text, just stuff that's really easy to see. You want 1-inch margins so people can write notes around it if they happen to print it out. You want to make it easy, visually pleasing. Keep the font 10, 11, 12 point, nothing smaller than 10 point. So the question that always pops is, how many years should I go back on my resume? So I've got 3 options here for you. If you'd like to, in the chat window or on the comment field on Facebook, please put in comment A, or please pick A, B, or C. So what should you do? Should you show all of your experience? That would be your master resume. Should you show only the most recent 10 to 15 years? Or should you show all the details about the most 10 to 15 years and then have a section called prior relevant experience? So if you will, in the chat window, please put A, B, or C. All right, we've got 2 C's, 2 B's. Oh, we got another C, so it's 3-2 at this point. Anybody else? All right, well, personally, I believe, here we go. We've got a couple more C's have come in. So personally, I believe C is the way to go. We'll show you what that looks like here in our sample resume in just a couple minutes. But the best thing you can do, and here's the reason why you want to use that prior relevant experience, why you want to say that. Because when you're in a job interview, when you're interviewing with somebody, if you happen to tell a story about something you've done at a company and it's not listed on your resume, the person's going to go, wait a second, when did you do that? Where did you do that at? I don't understand. So by putting that prior relevant experience section there, and all you have to do is list the company name and your job title. That's all you have to do. No bullet points unless you really want to include 1 or 2 bullet points. But the key to that whole section is there's no dates. You just, you're putting those down there. That gives you permission to talk about a star story of something you did back then, because you never know which way the interview is going to go. All right, fonts for your resume, to be very, very careful. Number 1, these are the fonts I recommend: Arial, Calibri, or Tacoma. I do not like New Times Roman, Garamond, or Calibre. The reason for those 3 is I don't like the serifs. To me, it's much easier and cleaner to read Arial, Calibre, or Tacoma. I mean, one of the reasons Microsoft Office went to Calibre is because it's a very clean, easy font to read. Okay. Helvetica is okay. It's a clean, easy font to read, but nothing fancy. Okay. Don't do anything weird or goofy with fonts. Keep it, I would say Arial, Calibre, and Tacoma and Helvetica are the 3 to use. Margins, you generally want to have 1-inch margin, top, bottom, left, and right. You can use the bullet like you see here, the little round bullet. Those are okay, but don't use arrows or check marks or little icons or something. Keep it very simple. Bold, underline, italics, shadows, and no shadows in graphics. Be very selective on using underlines, italics, or bold. You can use a little bit of bold, and we'll show you some of that in the resume that we're going to show you in a second. And do not use any text boxes, any headers, or any templates. Those generic templates have built-in formatting and stuff that an ATS system may not work very well. And remember, when you go in to have an interview, take a pretty copy of your resume. Don't take what you're submitting. You may want to make it look a little bit nicer, put a little bit more spacing to make it easy to read. Always be sure to take extra copies of your resume with you. So resumes are scanned, they're not read. When the initial interviewer, when the initial person looks at your resume, they may spend 7-8 seconds looking at your resume. So they're going to look to sort of see what your first job is. They're going to scan the first couple words of a bullet point. They're going to go to the second page. They're going to make sure you have the right education they're looking for, the right experience. So it's going to be a real quick read on what you should do. So like I said, the hiring manager will read your resume in a little bit more detail, but that initial recruiter, 7 to 8 seconds is all you've got to get their attention. So you've got to make it easy for them. I would not put like on the right-hand side, you see that border around the outside. I would never do that, because you've made it tougher for them to be able to, you've taken space away for some clear space. All right, so let's say, what do you do to fill a gap? You haven't worked in the last 2 years. Now, COVID, a lot of people are going to understand that's a reason why. Maybe you worked and you decided you didn't want to go back into the office, whatever it is, there is. But some titles that you can fill for a current job title, you can use something like community leadership, or maybe you did some consulting with somebody, or you took some continuing education. Okay, so you can say that you've done some consulting work, even if it's pro bono for a nonprofit organization. That's okay. If you've done, community leadership includes volunteering work in leadership. What have you done at to volunteer at an organization? If you've received any certifications, you can be sure to list those also underneath that job, underneath continuing education. So you can fill that gap. And even I've seen gaps where people have put, had to take care of a family member. Okay. But you want to make sure that if you said that, I had to take off because my parents were very sick, or to take care of them, you've got to make sure that one of the bullet points talks about how that situation is now taken care of, and that you're no longer tied down to be doing that. You're not going to be taken off every other week to run out of town to do that. So just be very careful how you word that. Okay. So here is an example under professional experience on how to do that: community leadership and consulting. served as a panelist and coach for the Dallas practice interview team to help job seekers seek interview skills, provided counseling service to a local nonprofit on how to prepare and to conduct job interviews and how to evaluate the candidates. Okay, so here's just a couple things. If you know things you've done, you can list this as a current job if that's something you're doing. All right, so let's go to the key components of a resume. The key components of a resume is you have to have a good header. You need a short summary statement. You can list key accomplishments. This is an optional feature. This is usually for salespeople. Now, yes, we're all in sales because we're trying to sell ourselves into the next job. But if you're truly in sales and in marketing, you've got to be able to show some results and some results of what's going to could be a key accomplishment area. And we'll show you that in a second. We're then going to talk about professional experience. We could have a previous relevant experience section. We're then going to list education and then software skills at the end. So as a header, you want your name, the name you like to be called. Remember, your resume is not a legal document. It needs to be accurate, tell the truth. You don't have to tell the god-awful truth, but just be sure to tell the truth because you know, people are going to check your thing. So put your name on there that you prefer to be called. If for some reason you have a hard to pronounce name or your name's pronounced a little bit differently, I recommend in parentheses you put the phonetic spelling of your name so it makes it easy for somebody to reach out. I know if some recruiters will find somebody's name and go, I can't pronounce that, I'm going to go on to the next candidate. You can be very qualified, but if you make it easy for them, they may, you know, they'll go, wow, they've taken the time to make it easy for me to reach out to them. Phone number, city, state, and zip code. If you live in a small town like Prosper or, you know, some small town around a bigger metroplex, I would suggest you put the Dallas-Fort Worth, you know, DFW or Dallas-Fort Worth. And you can always list your local zip code because that way it gets you a bigger area. You want your email address and your LinkedIn address. Make sure they're not hyperlinks. Be sure, you know, normally when you type them in Microsoft Word, it automatically turns them blue and adds an underline to it. Just click on it, do a right click on it, put on there remove hyperlink. The reason for that is some ATS systems don't like the underline. It will mess their system up, okay? Because they can't, if there's a G, it won't see the G because of the line, it gets all confused, all right? So remove hyperlinks when you're submitting them to an ATS system. Your summary, the summary on a profile. The summary is not an objective. Nobody cares what you're looking for. What we want to know is what can I do for you? Why should I call you? Why should I reach out to you? Why should I hire you? Okay, so you want to be sure that your summary is repeating some of the keywords from the job description. You want to put a job title on there. If they're looking for a business analyst, you want to put business analyst. Now, if you've never been a business analyst, you probably may not want to use that exact term, but you want to make sure that you're using terms that are from the job description to make it as easy as possible for them to do. You want to include some areas of expertise. When you do that, you want to make sure your top areas, if I were to ask you, what are your top 3 areas? It better be the top 3 that are on the top of the list or the top 3 on the left side of the list, okay? Don't go tell me your top, well, my best attribute is I'm good with customer-facing roles, user interface design, and improving processes, okay? If those are your top 3 strengths, put those on the top, you know, or put them on, you know, put them on the left-hand side, all right? And you're going to pull those from the job description. Make sure those match what's in the job description. Very, very important. All right, this is an optional section, key accomplishments. If you're in sales and business development, this is probably a section that you may want to include. But the key here is you need to also include these bullets in your job description. You're just pulling them up to go, hey, look here, here's something I can do for you. All right, so just be aware of that when you do that. All right, on a job description here, we're going to talk about the professional experience section. Number one, chronological. Nobody wants a functional resume. They just don't want a functional resume. People want to see chronological order, what you've done, most current job on top, the next one underneath it in order. All right. It's very odd and very seldom. Yeah. People just don't want a functional resume. They're not going to do that. You've got to make sure that you use parallel verbs. And so what I mean by that is you've got to make sure that all those ones underlined in red, this is his current job, 2014 to present. So he's analyzed, insured, served, serve as. Okay, now he has one past tense, the one in blue there, achieved, because that was a project he worked on in the past, but it's still under his current job. So in this case, it's okay. But you've got to make sure that every past job that you've got, so you look at the job from 2010 to 2014 at the bottom, you've got to make sure that all those verbs are past tense. Also notice that the first word of every bullet point is an action verb because you're trying to draw their attention. Okay, so you want to make sure you want to make sure that you're pulling them in to make them want to read something. So use an exciting action verb if you can. You want to be ensured or include a one-line description of the company. There are millions of companies out there. I've been doing this for 13 years in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it doesn't go, every week doesn't go by when I hear about somebody's looking for a job at a company that I have never, ever heard of. Maybe they changed names. Maybe it's a brand new company. Companies are opening and closing here all the time. So put a one-line, just put a one-line description of the company. It helps people get an idea. Personally, if you look at my job description, you'll see that I had two more things. I put who I reported to and the number of people that I managed, because that gives some more relevance to what you did at a company, okay? So just two more things that I put right underneath the job description. You want to limit the number of job bullets limit the number of job bullets in a job description. The most recent job, 4 or 5. The one prior to that, maybe 3 or 4. Prior to that, 2 or 3. You don't need to have a lot of them. And remember, the whole point of this is to match the job description. So if they don't talk about the job description, don't tell them about things because you're trying to get them to call you up. You've got to make sure you focus on results. Results sell. Don't let your job description read like a job description. This is what I'm looking for somebody to do. Tell me how you did those things. You achieved 50% improvement in customer sign-off. However you can quantify, save the company $5,000 by, evaluating risk, reduce data migration by 90%. Those are the things that are going to help you tell somebody what it is you do and how you can help them. Your professional experience. You want to make sure you concentrate on details, limit 5 to 6 bullet points per job, focus on results, and your bullets should not sound like a job description. What if you don't have any results? What's an easy way to do this? I love this game. It's called the So What game. Carol Burkell came up with this during, as a career coach. This is what she did to help people. So what she did was the original text that she saw in a resume somebody had was guide at the next phase of brand evolution for a multimedia artist and managed film production and publishing. So the question was, so what? What was the result? What were you able to do? Well, the answer was they increased the business opportunities, which led to 10 new commissions for my client. Okay, so let's reword that bullet point. So the new bullet point is increased business opportunities to include 10 new commissions for my client based on developing a full social media and PR strategy, So they've given some results to help explain what it is they did. Remember, results sell. What if you've had multiple roles at one company? How do you handle that? Okay, so what you want to do here is you want to list the company name once with the full range of start and stop dates from the beginning until the end of the time you were there. All right, so what you're doing is on the right hand side, you're listing the 2010 to 2014. Then you can list the dates for each row next to the job title that you had there. So as a business analyst, it's from 2012 to 2014. As a system engineer, from 2010 to 2012. Okay, if you were to put those dates over on the right-hand side, it would then make you look like a job hopper that you've had no consistency at a place. So if you've worked at one place for a while, that's what you'd want to consider doing. Have everything, list the company dates, with the full range of dates, and put the dates for each row next to the job title. What do you do about companies that have changed names? There's a couple different ways to do this. You can either give the current name of the company followed by the old name, XYZ Corporation, and in parentheses, formerly ABC Corporation. Or you can do ABC Corporation, in parentheses, acquired by XYZ Company in 2008. You can do it either way, whatever makes sense. I would do it to be whatever the most famous name is. I know here in the area, there was a gentleman who I saw, and he said, yeah, I used to be called Campbell's Soup, and then it was bought by company X, and now it's company Y. Well, I know Campbell's Soup, that's a household name. I would list Campbell's Soup, in parentheses, acquired by X, acquired by, and list those other two company names in the parentheses, because what's the most famous name there? Okay, so just depending on, I say pick the most famous name that people would know as the main company name. All right, education and software skills, you want to list your degree, and then a list of software skills can be modified based on the job description. Be sure whatever they ask for in the job description, you list. Now, if you're in the C-suite or a mid-senior level person, you don't really need to list Microsoft Office, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Outlook, because I sort of expect that everybody knows how to do that. Now, if you're an admin, you definitely want to do it. But if they list it in the job description, you list it, because here's an opportunity for you to match what they're talking about. If you do not have a degree, write something like this: the school, name of the school, comma, city, comma, state, and then area, list whatever the area of major your concentration is, and then parentheses put X number, whatever hours you put on there, just showing that you do not have you don't have the degree. Remember, there was a coach who went to Notre Dame and he fudged on his resume that he had a degree from so-and-so. Well, of course, the Notre Dame alumni went and did some checking and found out he didn't. And 2 weeks later, the man was out of a job. So, like I said, tell the truth. All right, so here is on the right is a resume. On the right is your resume. On the left, here's a job description. So take a few minutes and you want to highlight what you think are the important words here. Okay, so business analyst, you want to make sure that you copy the business analyst over to a couple different places so that it's there for you. You want to make sure that you bring keywords over that are whatever's in the job description, make sure it's over onto your resume. If they talk about improving processes, make sure you mention that as one of your areas of expertise. Cross-functional, be sure to mention that, how you're good at adapting and how you're good at doing those things. If they talk about Agile, Scrum, Visual Studio, make sure that you pulled those comments into your profile, because that's going to be very, very important. Multiple sources, user manuals, get those keywords all copied over. That's what's going to be very, very important here. And then here are a few more keywords over there. So, you can take a job description, and it probably makes sense to print it out, highlight what you think are the keywords, and then do I have those keywords on my resume? So remember, keywords are very, very important. Keywords are what's going to make the ATS match it. And if you make it easy for the recruiter, the keywords are what's going to make it easy for them. You got to remember, resumes are scanned. They are not read by recruiters. 7 to 8 seconds. A resume will not get you a job. It will only get you a phone call. That's why I always say, practice your interview skills, because, you know, I've seen perfect resumes that match a perfect job. But then when I conducted an interview with the person, I can see why they didn't get the job, because their interview skills were not very good. And then, you know, lastly here, and I think this is really, really important. You never know why they called you. You never know what the most important thing is here. So ask them when they call you up, you know, thank you very much for calling. So what was it on my resume that made you call me? What was it on my LinkedIn profile that stood out to you? Because that may not be what's even on the job description, because they may have pulled the job description out of a binder that's been on a shelf for 10 years. You know, they went, well, yeah, this is the closest job that we can sort of fit the person in pay wise and everything. You know, we'll rewrite it when they get here, what we want them to do. So ask, it'll make a big, big difference. All right, so let's take a look at a resume. We've got one person who has supplied a resume for us to take a look at. Let me get it downloaded here. Give me just a second. Let me also go ahead. I'm going to submit here. I'm going to go ahead and put in the chat box a sample resume. Let's see here. I'm going to put a sample T cover letter. Let's see. Here's a sample T cover letter. And I'm going to put a, whoops, I'm sending this only to one person. Hold on here, everybody. Sample resume and a sample. And this is a sample that we used here in a sample T cover letter. There we go. All right, I just sent those to you. All right, so let's go take a look at this resume that I got. All right, give me just a second to get it set up here so you can view it. And let's view one single page, page width, new share. All right, so now you can see this resume. It's for an engineering manager. Thank you for removing your header information. So here is his career. Here's his summary stating what he's looking for: a proven leader, problem solver, technical solution provider, team player, collaborative product, engineering, project management, product management, manufacturing, product test. So you can sort of see here. So 3 lines, perfect. Skills and expertise. You know, I don't think that's really important to list Microsoft Office. I would try to get it down to, let's see, 1, 2, you've got 10, 11, 12 of them here. I would try to cut it down to maybe 9 things that are on here that you'd want to talk about. I think I'd maybe even eliminate the bullets and just try to, if you can, to sort of list maybe 3 rows of 3 or something, if you can get it down a little bit. Key accomplishments. So got results by each thing, which are great. Perfect. Professional experience. So here's what he's doing now. He's helping out. So there's really no job title here, but that's fine. So this looks a little bit like a volunteer position. Oh, sorry, underneath it, here we go. You don't need to put this here because this is the date right here. If it's only for 2021, you only need to, you only need to have it there. You don't need to list it both. If you had multiple jobs, then I would list it in multiple places. It's just, you're putting extra text that's not really needed, okay? Good information, tells me what you're doing, increased volunteers, perfect, perfect. So 2018 to 2020, senior technical expert. So it tells me Meditor does, once again, company I've never heard of. Report to chief engineer, global characters. You know, results, perfect. Great to have results here. So here's a great example of how to do multiple jobs in one company. He's got primary job, the total dates over here on the very right-hand side looks perfect. And then listing the jobs, the length of jobs for each one here. So it shows a continuity, a longer term of being in one place for a longer time. I like this. This is a good looking resume here. 1994 to 09. So here it is. He's showing progression while he's been there with the different titles, just showing a couple of things on here. Perfect. Education, Master of Science, listing his degrees. Perfect. You don't have to list a date. That's not important. Postgraduate courses, that's a nice little thing to add on here. If you've done technical papers, you've written a book, you have patents that you've done, you can add those kinds of things on here. And volunteer, that's sort of up, you know, I see a spacing issue right here. You need to put a space between these. So, you know, little spacing issue, but you know, I like this. All right, so this has gone to 3 pages, not full. The font's pretty easy to read, nice, clean, easy font. Let's see what font he used. This is Arial. You know, the font's 11-point font. So let's see here. Let's view actual size. Zoom 100%. So I maybe, because I had a little space, would give a little bit more margins. You know, just to clean it up. Like I said, you can get rid of these bullets right here and here, which would help clean up a little bit. And if you get rid of a couple of those, that'll give you a little bit more space. But I like this. I like your resume. I think you've probably listened to what we've talked about in the past. And yeah, I'll hire you. I like this. It looks very good. Anybody else? Anybody else have any comments? You're welcome to open up your mic and add any comments or suggestions that you have for anybody. Anyone? I think it looks good.
Well, this is Rich. Thanks for the feedback. That is my resume, and yes, I have included feedback from these sessions and from other groups. So I think initially my resume was critiqued by Carol.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, last year, and she provided some good feedback as well.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Michael says, nice resume with some compelling results. And I think that's the important thing. Results sell. Now, the only other suggestion I maybe would have is you may not want to put all the results at the very end of each line. Like on the second page here. Let me highlight this little area here. So, you know, the 1 million in projects would have popped over. I mean, I don't know if there's a way, you know, to improve, you know, redesign R&D center to improve workflow, saving $1 million, increased output and enhanced technical image. One of the things that is very noticeable, if you look at a lot of text like this, dates, that numbers stand out. That if you see something, you know, my eye is drawn right here to 30. All right, because it's in the middle here. My eye is drawn to this 15 to 120 million because it's in the middle of a resume. So something, I don't know if you'd want to consider, but like in this first section here, if you can move, you know, technical project manager saved $2.5 million by validation, by creating a supplier validation program or something. Because like I said, if you can get numbers in the middle, it draws somebody's eye to what's going on. I mean, you know, that 3 to 10, because it's so different from everything else, from the A to Z's. That's the only other hint that I've heard that may or may not help, but great detail, a lot of good stuff on here.
Hi, it's Leora.
Yeah.
One thing that might help with all the matrix to bring attention is to bold it in the resume. That's what I did with mine. I bolded it every time.
Some people do that. I mean, I like the fact, you know, sometimes too much bolding is a little much. It just sort of depends. You know, I mean, I like the way he's, you know, bolded stuff here to make it easy to see the company names and everything. All his company names are all in uppercase letters for the most part. So,
Right.
but
And then-
consistency wise,
Right. And it was a little confusing, like you had the beginning between the company name and the title, maybe by making the space in between like half of a space, the empty space, or by indenting a little bit more the paragraph that comes underneath it. So
yeah,
it's
what
also
you
confusing.
could probably always do is for that space there, just, you know, take it down to like 6 points or something, because that pulls it, it makes it look like it's part of the same job.
Yeah, that looks better.
Yeah. So what I did here, I think I just took it down to when I took it down to 5 point, just to, you know, link it together a little closer. But yeah, no, I like this. Good looking, good job, great job.
Thanks. Looks nice.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Jeff.
Any other comments before we move on? Matthew, I see your mic's unmuted.
Yeah, I did just have one question, if I may. So in the situation where, say, you're with one employer and your job title has technically been the same for several years, but during that time period, you have been on like special side projects and things like that. How would you recommend annotating that on the resume? Do it in underneath that employer and that job title and break it out there, or do a separate section for specialized projects?
I think I would do it underneath. I'd be interesting to see. I'd like to, you know, throw a sample up and let us see it next week. But I
Okay.
would put it underneath the company name, underneath the job title. So, you know,
Okay.
and, you know, I think I would go through and, you know, you could maybe just take this section and just indent it so that it shows some post, you know, here are some projects or however of things you did while you worked here. But primarily, each one of these are different projects. You
Mhm.
know, everything he did while he was in that particular role is a different project. So, yeah, put something together and let us look at it next week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Let me thank you very much for your resume. Looks great. Let me not save it. And let me go back to, we'll get out of here now. All right, if you were not able to download a sample resume and a sample of, you know, what you're looking for here, please, you can send me a resume, send me a email to resume@careerdfw.org. I will send you a copy of the sample resume, a copy of the sample one-page bios, and a sample T cover letter. Now, I know we didn't talk about a T cover letter, but a T cover letter is a very short document. First paragraph is where you found the job. The middle part of it is a table. And on the left-hand side, you put down, this is what you were looking for. And on the right-hand side, you say, this is how I meet those goals. So you pick maybe like 3 different things that they're looking for, and you show them 3 different things that match up on the left side and the right side of the paper. So if you'd like to get those, if you're not able to download them off the chat window, please send me an email and I will get those to you. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Tomorrow morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, we're going to have open forum. We will talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about your career. So any questions you've got, anything you'd like to throw out to anybody who's on there, if you'd like to offer your opinion, a suggestion, If somebody else does stuff, this is just sort of a round table. This is just for everybody to be able to jump in and offer their suggestions, opinions, questions, suggestions, or whatever it is, so that we can help each other the best way we can. Next Tuesday, our LinkedIn presentation, every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Central Time. LinkedIn search engine optimization with Ruth Lipsky. Ruth does an outstanding presentation on LinkedIn. Please feel free to join us next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, we'll have a practice interview team practice interview. So you can watch a real practice interview and see how it's done. You will learn things just by watching. And then next Thursday, being the second Thursday of the month, we'll talk about networking. Every session, we have a different speaker to share their thoughts on networking. This session has been recorded. It is going to be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel. It'll take a couple hours for it to get uploaded to YouTube, but it will be there later this afternoon. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist and then go down below, find the topic that you want, and then click down where you see the red arrow where it says view full playlist, and out will come a list of all the different dates and titles and topics of what we've talked about, and you can go back and watch any one of those at your convenience. If you're not subscribing to our YouTube channel, please do so. That way, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it. You can go back and watch it if you were not able to join us during the week. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops, please join the Career USA mailing list. Just send an email to Career USA, the + subscribe at groups.io. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the email of the topic of the day, the title of the topic, and most importantly, the Zoom link. So that way you can just open up the email and click on the Zoom link to join our call. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everything I've done over the last 13 years has been as a volunteer, just here to help you land your next great opportunity. So please consider making a donation when you get your next job so we can continue to provide the services that we're providing. So thank you very much for joining us today. We'll hopefully see you tomorrow morning. If not, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.